Yo, what's up, my great sages? It's your host, Sage the Samurai, now back with another exciting what if. As today, we're going to be diving into what would have happened if Naruto Uzumaki had gained the abilities and experiences of Jugram from Bleach. A huge thanks to the person who recommended this idea. I hope you, along with everyone else, enjoys. As now, with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so to begin the what if, we're now going to begin with Naruto's childhood. As taking a brief look at it, we will then see things already play out differently, as instead of seeing the regular, knuckleheaded, attention-seeking prankster that we would usually see just like in the main timeline, we would instead see a much more different Naruto, as you will see him working hard, studying, training, and being more responsible for himself. Since by this point in this timeline, Naruto had already understood very quickly that no one in life was going to look out for him, as Naruto had already came to the terms with the fact that his circumstances in this life was just not it. As after all, being dealt a bad hand, being the fact that he didn't have his mother or father, and seeing the fact that he had no siblings to look after him, and really no one wanted to look after him at all, Naruto would learn to fend for himself, which would actually end up being a good thing for him later on. As now turning to when he is 8 years old and when he joins the Ninja Academy, we will see Naruto as by this point he would actually do way better than he did in the main timeline, quickly becoming one of the best students in the school, and this would actually benefit very greatly for him considering the fact that during the time of the graduation test, we would see Naruto passing easily on his very first attempt, with this allowing him to become a Genin way earlier compared to how he was in the main timeline. But unfortunately, he did have to face his own challenges during this point, as at first we will see him be placed on a trial version of Team 7 with Kakashi, but unfortunately for him, this team wasn't the original Team 7 like it was in the main timeline, so the team doesn't really work well together and fails. Even though Naruto was trying his best as he tried to make his teammates work with him, and he did put up a pretty decent fight with Kakashi. But unfortunately, due to their own arrogance and due to them just not wanting to work with Naruto, that meant that unfortunately Team 7 in this timeline would fail, but there will be an exception for Naruto, since he really did try working with them and showed that he was capable of being a Genin. So that meant that Naruto in this timeline would actually have the benefit of being a reserve Genin instead of getting sent back to the Ninja Academy like his two teammates. As now that Naruto didn't have a squad, this is where we would then see him throughout the years, as he'll be sent on missions with many different squads and also getting a lot of real life experience and becoming stronger over time. As Naruto, even though he was a little bit held back because of his reserve Genin title, that didn't really stop him necessarily, and in fact, he made sure to use it to his own advantage. As thanks to all that hard work that Naruto would put into being a Genin, by the time that Naruto is at the age of 13, we would then turn to him now as he will be a respected Chunin and would be quite well known. As this is where we now do a change of scenes. Turning to a certain mission site, we will then be introduced to a 13-year-old Naruto, with him being seen standing over a battlefield, completely uninjured. Meanwhile, all around him, we will then see piles upon piles of taking down shinobis that were surrounding him, as Naruto would be looking at the battlefield that was completely decimated for what battle seemed to have taken place here. As now seeing that he took care of all the shinobis that were around, and now seeing that the mission was completed, this is where we will then see Naruto as he will then return back to the Hidden Leaf Village. And while he does this, we will then get a chance to actually get a good look at Naruto's attire, with him having the standard Chunin outfit, but with this time around, he would have his headband wrapped around his neck basically, and a katana strapped to his back. As basically Naruto, he's already making like a small subtle changes to his style compared to how he was in the main timeline. As now, turning to later on, after Naruto would arrive back to the village and report back to Hiruzen about the completed mission, this is where he would then, prepare to leave. But before he does, this is when Hiruzen would then assign Naruto onto another team, which was confusing since Naruto has not been truly assigned to a team since his, reserve Genin days. As now with that being said, this is where we will now do a quick change of scenes, as we will now see Naruto as he'll be introduced to his new team, with this being now the canon version of Team 7. With Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura all being there waiting for him as Naruto would arrive. Now you see, the main reason behind this in this timeline is the fact that there was too few students that passed the exam in this timeline, so that meant that there was an uneven number to create proper teams, meaning that Team 7 was lacking a member. And while yes, this meant usually that they were supposed to get a reserve Genin, due to a special request from Kakashi and also due to Hiruzen's unnecessarily needed concerns about Naruto's social life, that meant that Naruto was actually placed on Team 7, even though he far outranked both his teammates. as once Naruto ends up getting introduced to his teammates, this will cause a little bit of a weird dynamic to form very quickly. As after every last one of them would introduce himself, with both Sasuke and Sakura making sure to pay extra attention onto Naruto since he was a new guy and they never met him, this is where they would then quickly learn that Naruto would outrank them, even though he was the same age. And this would already begin to cause some troubles, as Sasuke would begin to have various certain jealousy problems, to which Naruto would take notice of but not really care too much about it, considering the fact that Naruto has been a shinobi for so many years now and didn't have time to focus on petty rivalries, as instead he was much more focused on doing his job properly as a shinobi. But still nonetheless, after their introductions would get out of the way, this is where we will now turn to later on, during the next day, as they would then have the bell test. Now for the events that play out during the bell test, we would already see them play out differently, as instead of Naruto making the first move, you would then see his teammates do it instead, with Sasuke being the first, Sakura being the second, although she didn't really try, she was more worried for Sasuke, and Naruto finally being the last. Now when both Kakashi and Naruto would face off against each other, we would then see something very interesting. As while they're exchanging blows and going, blow for blow with each other, both of them are able to acknowledge the other one's strength, with Kakashi saying that Naruto is like, he's getting an off feeling from him. As even though Naruto's ranking is Chunin, the way that Naruto is able to contend with Kakashi is equal to that of a Jonin. While Naruto himself can already admit that Kakashi was definitely no ordinary Jonin, considering the fact that Naruto has been some of them before, whenever he's like out on a mission by himself. As the two of them would continue fighting with each other, eventually it would then end in a draw, with both of them having the perfect opportunity to end each other supposedly. As now seeing that neither of them could make a move, that's when they then decide to separate from each other, as both Kakashi and Naruto then decide to go their own ways. But you see, right as they separate though, that's when both of them can then acknowledge that the other was holding back, with Naruto knowing that Kakashi chose not to use the Sharingan, while Kakashi himself, even though he knew that Naruto had the Nine Tails, he still felt as if Naruto was holding back, considering the fact that throughout the entirety of the fight, Naruto remained too calm and also felt too in control of the fight. As even though it was seemingly equal between the two of them, Naruto shown to be very unbothered or, un at all affected by the exchange whatsoever. While Kakashi himself, he most definitely felt as if that Naruto nearly got him a couple of times. So this caused Kakashi didn't realize that Naruto was most definitely holding back, but he was unsure how exactly. But moving on from this is where we will now turn to the rest of the events that play out during the bell test, as we will then see the entirety of Team 7 still in the passing just like they do in the main timeline, with the main difference here being the fact that instead of them passing how they do in the main timeline, in this one they would actually work together as a team to try to take on Kakashi, with the main reason behind it being Naruto, as he would try working together with both Sasuke and Sakura, even though there was a little bit of arguing, since Sasuke didn't want to work with Naruto and Sakura was just simply following Sasuke's lead. But fortunately though, due to Naruto having the patience and also having way more experience, he would actually be working with them as he would play the role of support, protecting and boosting both Sasuke and Sakura while they attempt to attack Kakashi, as this would be the main reason as to why they would pass. As then afterwards, this is where we would then turn to the following months, as unfortunately they'll be having no choice but to do D-rank missions, and by they I mean Sasuke and Sakura, since Kakashi was a Jonin and he didn't really need to do it, with Naruto also being a Chunin and also not needing to do it. As Kakashi would actually explain this to his teammates, and this would actually cause Sasuke to then grow even more jealous of Naruto, as he would be jealous of his ranking but also because of his power. As you see, whenever there was a group training session throughout the months, we would usually just see Naruto training with Kakashi, as the two of them would be occasionally sparring. And this would cause Sasuke to then get a glimpse of Naruto's power, and this would cause him to then begin to get even more jealous of him, as you'll see Sasuke working a lot harder in order to catch up to him. As now with this being said, this is where we're now going to do a time skip, as we will now flash towards the events that happened during the Land of the Waves. As you see, the introduction of the Land of the Waves will kick off almost the exact same way, as we will see Team 7 then get assigned with Tsunade the Bridge Builder. Now the beginning parts of it will continue to play out, as eventually Team 7 will then head off to the Land of the Waves, with them encountering some shinobis, to which Sasuke is able to take care of. But you see, as they go further and further into this mission, this is when they would then be intercepted by none other than Zabuza, as this is when things would then play out differently. As now entering into the scene, we will then turn to see Zabuza, as right after he landed on top of his blade, as he looks down at Team 7, this is when he would then take note of two interesting individuals, with the first one being Kakashi, considering the fact that he's much more famous, but this one he would then turn to Naruto as well, since during this point Naruto was still known as an up-and-coming shinobi, as Zabuza was paying close attention to his bounty as he sees it slowly rise up throughout the years, as he would immediately be able to recognize the two of them, calling them out and saying that he was having a lucky day, considering the fact that that meant that he get to have both their bounties once he's able to take care of them. However, unfortunately for Zabuza, that wouldn't happen. As during the time when he would fight Team 7, unfortunately, this is where he would then quickly realize that both Naruto and Kakashi were too much for him. As during the time that they were exchanging blows, he would realize that both Naruto and Kakashi seemed to almost be in sync, as they were able to fight him on equal levels and were able to push him back very quickly, enough to the point where he realized that at any moment these two could land a finishing blow. But fortunately for him, right as both Kakashi and Naruto were about to land that finishing blow, that's when Haku would then decide to step in. And by step in, I mean he fully rushes there to protect Zabuza by summoning out a crystal ice mirror to block both Kakashi and Naruto's attack. Now this will cause Zabuza to then curse out Haku for ruining the plan, but Haku would argue saying that he needed him there more than ever. Now this will cause the 1v2 to then turn into a 2v2, with Haku and Zabuza then deciding to face off against Kakashi and Naruto. As now seeing that the fight was about to be raised to a higher level, this is when Naruto would then gain an idea, as he would then supposedly try to run away with Haku following him under Zabuza's orders, as this will cause the two fights to then break up, with Naruto and Haku going to one part of the forest while Kakashi and Zabuza will be in the main part where the rest of Team 7 will be watching. As now that Naruto had brought Haku a fair enough distance away from Zabuza, this is when the two of them would then begin their fight. As immediately, we will then see both Naruto and Haku then rush at each other, with them clashing with their respective weapons, as Naruto will be using his katana and Haku will use his Senbon needles. However, as the fight between the two of them would begin to drag on, that's when Haku would then begin to realize that Naruto would be able to outclass him. As during the time of their fight, Naruto would be able to point out every last one of Haku's weakness and would be able to actually land multiple slashes on him. Meanwhile, Haku would be unable to injure Naruto, as he would be able to deflect all his blows. As realizing that this could potentially lead to a losing battle, this is when Haku would then decide to pull off all the stops, as he would then activate his crystal ice mirrors. As right after doing this is where we would then see Naruto then be trapped inside a dome filled with crystal ice mirrors. As just like that, we would then see Haku as he would then enter inside one of them, before appearing and then stabbing Naruto, then going back into another, as he will repeat this process multiple times until Naruto looks like a straight up pincushion. However, right after Haku would then finish his attack and right after Naruto would be on his last legs, this is when all of a sudden, to Haku's surprise, he would then feel multiple needles stabbing through his body. He felt maybe hundreds if not thousands of them go through, as he would feel extremely weak in the very next moment and in an absolute amount of pain. As he would then look up, as we would actually see that his body would be riddled with wounds, all the while as we turn to Naruto, this is where we would then see him being completely fine. Not even a scratch on his shinobi outfit, as he would be calmly looking at Haku. As Haku will be looking at him wondering what just happened, as he thinks that maybe it was a genjutsu, but Naruto will then quickly shut the idea down, telling Haku that he has no idea exactly how out of control this entire situation was for him. As straight up, this is where Naruto would then begin to explain to Haku how he never stood a chance, explaining how he let Haku hit him multiple times and how he let all these sequence of events to happen in order just to reflect it right back at Haku. As in Naruto's own words, fate itself won't allow him to fall. As right after saying that, to Haku's surprise, right as he was about to pass away, he would then look above Naruto to then see a ginormous scale that was looming over him, with this scale tipping much more towards Naruto rather than him, as that would be the last thing that Haku would see, as this would only show a glimpse of the power that Naruto truly hold. As now with this fight taken care of, this is where we're now allowed to do a time skip. So now flashing forward to a couple of moments after the battle between both Naruto and Haku, we will now turn to when Naruto would arrive back to his team. As by this point now, due to Haku being defeated and due to Zabuza having no one to bail him out, that would mean that Zabuza would die way earlier compared to how he was in the main timeline, as he will be finished off by Kakashi, causing the group to then finally be able to move on from this. As due to both Haku and Zabuza now being defeated, we will see the completion of the Land of the Waves, as it will go by much easier, as Team 7 would be able to easily complete this mission, as Gato and his grunts were nothing to them. As after saving the Land of the Waves, we would then see them eventually go back to the Henley Village, which would be a good thing considering the fact that this will give them much more of an opportunity to train for the tuning exams. And by them, I mean Sasuke and Sakura, as Naruto, due to the fact that he's a chunin, won't be participating in the exam. And after being informed of all of this is where something interesting would happen, as just like in the main timeline, Sasuke would challenge Naruto, as he would firmly declare that once he became a chunin, that he and Naruto would fight to finally determine who was the stronger of the two, as Sasuke believed that once he completed the tuning exams that he would be on equal levels with Naruto. And Naruto, seeing this as a good motivation for Sasuke, he would actually agree to those terms, to which this would cause Sasuke to, begin getting excited about it, as this is where we will now flash to the very day of the exams, as Team 7 had gotten an opportunity to train, with Naruto helping them out, as afterwards we will then see Sasuke, Sakura, and a reserve genin named Sai then step up to face the trials of the exams. Meanwhile, Naruto, since he won't be participating, he'll be just doing his regular duties as a chunin, more precisely he'll be guarding the village and being on lookout, as he along with the rest of the Hidden Leaf Shinobi were there to make sure that nothing crazy would have happened. However, unfortunately, something would. As after the first half of the exam would then conclude, you'll see tension begin to rise up, with the main reason behind it being the fact that Orochimaru was spotted and apparently he had unleashed a sneak attack while the exam was happening, as this will cause some concern to be built up, with Hiruzen immediately telling his shinobis, including Naruto, to be on standby and to prepare for anything that may happen. As by this point now, Hiruzen believes that a battle may happen during the tuning exams, so he decides to have them all be on high alert so that way they can prevent it, or at least be ready for when it actually ends up happening. And Naruto, after being ordered to be ready and be on high alert, for the next month that will go by while everyone else was training for the tuning exams, for the final portion of it, Naruto himself, along with the rest of the Hidden Leaf Shinobi, would be preparing for a potential battle that may happen. As after the month would then finally conclude, as we will now turn to the finals of the tuning exams, where all the fights would happen pretty much like it does in canon, until suddenly a twist would then occur, as suddenly multiple people begin to fall asleep as feathers begin to descend across the arena. As once many of the villagers were put to sleep, this is when the Sound and Sand Shinobi would then attack, as just like that, everything would then be thrown into chaos. As while the Sound and Sand Shinobi will launch their respective attacks, the Leaf Shinobi who were able to fight would immediately stand their ground as they will try their best to defend the village from the assault. And while all this chaos was happening, we will then see Gaara and his siblings as they attempt to escape, prompting Sasuke and the rest of Team 7 to then give chase. Now Naruto during this point, he would be there along with the rest of the Jonins defending the villagers and taking down the Sound and Sand Shinobis. However, while doing so, this is when Kakashi would then tell Naruto to go after them, to which Naruto would do so. But before he does end up letting Kakashi know about something, as he would inform Kakashi that he should stay close to Hiruzen, with Kakashi wondering what Naruto meant until suddenly Naruto would then dash off, with him before doing so summoning out a bunch of shadow clones to protect the people in the stands. Now Kakashi, wondering what Naruto meant and more precisely seeing that everyone in the crowd was secure thanks to Naruto's clones, he would then head off to Hiruzen's area, deciding to trust Naruto's instincts, which later on we will find out is a good thing. As flashing to the next few moments, while Naruto would be finally catching up to Gaara and his siblings along with the rest of Team 7, turning to where Hiruzen was fighting Orochimaru, this is where we would then see the Sound 4 as they would try to intervene in the fight, and more precisely, they would try to seal off Hiruzen's chances of getting any help. However, while they attempt to do that, that's when Kakashi would then intercept the Sound 4. As this would end up leading to Kakashi facing off against all of them, as this would lead to a battle between all of them, which would be enough to distract them from forming the barrier, which would be perfect since this would allow the Anbu to rush in there to give assistance to Hiruzen, causing the fight to go more towards his favor and causing Orochimaru to have a much harder time. Meanwhile, turning to Naruto, as by this point now he caught up to Team Gaara as well as the rest of Team 7, he would be finding them as they'll be defeated by the hands at Gaara, as by this point now Gaara had entered into a semi-tail beast state, as he will be looking around anxiously for his next opponent until he found Naruto. As Naruto seeing this, he would just be there calmly looking at Gaara, all the while Gaara would then rush at him with a ginormous hand full of sand as he attempts to crush Naruto with it, with Naruto dodging out the way, as this is where the fight between the two of them would really begin, as we see Naruto immediately landing powerful blows on Gaara, with all of them working to an extreme degree. And by extreme degree I mean like a ginormous one, as every single slash was able to affect Gaara, even the smallest one, which in most cases would be leading to like a small cut, were landing extremely hard blows on Gaara for some reason. And this would be very confusing and overwhelming for Gaara, since by this point now his psyche wasn't in the right, as this would cause him to then immediately decide to use his awakening, or his sleep jutsu basically, to bring out the full form of Shikaku. As when that full form ends up arriving onto the battlefield, needless to say, Naruto would be there completely and utterly unfazed. As if you thought for a second that ginormous form was going to change anything in the battle, unfortunately that would not be the case. Instead, we will see something else actually happen. As you see Naruto even staring down the true form of the Shikaku as it will be looming over him, Naruto would show no fear at all, as he ends up letting the Shikaku know, along with Gaara, that all this was pointless. As bringing out his katana, this is where you'll then see Naruto as he gets encoded in a reddish and orange chakra, as this is where Naruto begins to tap into the power of the Nine Tails, as Naruto informs them that they have no idea how high class they really are, as Naruto would inform them that with a single slash that he would end this entire fight. As the Shikaku hearing this would actually let out a chuckle, letting Naruto know that he's just as arrogant as that fox. As Naruto would remain there calmly, as this is when the Shikaku would then send out not one, not two, but 3 air bullets at Naruto, with Naruto just calmly being there, while the rest of Team 7, who were now a distance away, now watching on in complete horror. And by them, I mean mostly just Sasuke, as he was the only one conscious, while Sakura and Sai would be unfortunately way too beaten up to really do anything. As Sasuke would watch Naruto as he seemingly gets hit with these attacks, as he will be, screaming out his name, asking if he was alright, only to then be surprised as the Shikaku, for its ginormous size, you would think it would not be movable. But to the absolute shock of anyone that was watching, this is where at that very moment we will then see the Shikaku as it will then be flung up into the air, as it will be screaming out in pain, as it will be soaring way higher than it's ever been before in its entire life, as it will then land roughly on the ground a few distances away from everyone else. As everyone will be watching on in complete shock, with everyone I mean just Sasuke and Temari, since those were the only 2 that were conscious or even present to watch this moment, as they wonder what the heck just happened, until suddenly walking out of the area that was just attacked, we will then see Naruto as he will be shaking off any dust that may have fallen onto his shinobi attire, as he asks the Shikaku if that was the very best it could do, as he would tell the Shikaku that that very attack that he released was pitiful. With the Shikaku, after getting up and grunting in pain, then asking Naruto what type of cheap trick did he use. With Naruto telling the Shikaku that there was no tricks at hand, and telling him that fate itself was just simply giving him back everything that he deserved. With the Shikaku after hearing this immediately growing angry as he decides to stop holding back at this very moment. As gathering a ginormously dangerous amount of chakra into its mouth, this is where the Shikaku would then attempt to release a Tail Beast bomb, with everyone who was in the vicinity of this actually feeling the amount of chakra in there, as this will cause both Sasuke as well as Temari to attempt to run for their lives. Meanwhile, Naruto there would just calmly watch, not at all affected by it. As seeing Naruto being completely unfazed by his attack, this is when the Shikaku would then release it at full power, hoping that Naruto as well as the fox within him would end up, passing away because of it. But this is when, to the absolute surprise of the Shikaku and to Temari and Sasuke, this is when Naruto, in response to this attack, he would then simply end up slashing at the air, as he will calmly slash downward with a straight expression, as everyone would think that he was an idiot, that he lost his mind, only for something amazing to happen. As after that one slash was then released, this is when, to the absolute shock of everyone, the Tail Beast bomb, possibly the most powerful attack that has been witnessed up to this point, would then seemingly be sliced in half completely. And that was not the only thing, as whatever attack that Naruto had just released at this moment, it would actually end up hitting the Shikaku directly. As this is where we would then see the Shikaku as it would then be split apart in the middle, with Gaara himself getting a nasty slash across his chest. I mean, he's still alive, but still, he had taken major damage from this one, as he would be woken up and screaming out in pain, as the entirety of the Shikaku's body would then turn back into sand. Meanwhile, Gaara would then fall from the sky itself, now no longer having anything to support him, as he would land on the hard sand, still alive but extremely injured. As Naruto will be looking at the destruction he caused with a calm expression, acting as if it was nothing, as he once again informs Gaara and everyone else watching that he did warn them that all he would need is one slash. As literally to everyone watching, they could have sworn that they could see the resemblance of the Nine Tails as it will be looming over Naruto menacingly with a smile on its face. As now that the battle between Gaara has come to an end, this is where we can now do a time skip as well as a change of scenes. As now turning to the battle between both Hiruzen as well as Orochimaru, thanks to the assistance that the Anbu have given him, this will cause Hiruzen to then finally have the opportunity to fix his biggest mistake. As now seeing that Orochimaru was completely restrained by the Anbu, not giving him any opportunity to escape or use any other hand signs, this will give Hiruzen the opportunity to then properly use the Reaper Death Seal. As sacrificing his own life, this is where he would then seal away Orochimaru, with Orochimaru not believing that he actually lost, as by this point now, this is not like, a simple death or anything. No, he is actually going down properly with no way to return, as Hiruzen has properly used the Reaper Death Seal, causing Orochimaru to now completely lose his soul as his body turns into an empty husk. As now that Orochimaru was completely sealed away, and after Hiruzen has passed away, this will bring an end to the events that happened during the Konoha Crush, as we now once again do a time skip. So now flashing forward to a couple of weeks after the battle, we will now turn to see the Hidden Leaf Village, as by this point now it was recovering a little bit better after the battle with the Orochimaru and also the Sand Village. However, that didn't mean that their troubles were completely gone, as unfortunately the Hidden Leaf Village was still severely weakened. Since Hiruzen had died during the battle, that meant that the Hidden Leaf Village was still severely weakened and without a Hokage. So due to that, they already decided to send out a mission request to Jiraiya in order to find their latest Hokage, and accompanying him, just like in the main timeline, would be Naruto, who by the way by this point had been promoted to Jonin. As due to his victory against Gaara and also realizing that Naruto is actually very influential throughout the Elemental Nations, this will cause the Hidden Leaf Village and everyone who's currently leading it right now to then decide to promote him to Jonin, as they see it as a way to kind of, strengthen the village since they lost the Hokage, as they needed all the influential shinobis to be at their peak condition, and also to let everyone know that just because they lost their Hokage didn't mean that they were necessarily weak. As once news ends up spreading out that Naruto had become a Jonin, once again his reputation would rise, which would once again benefit the Hidden Leaf Village to make it look all the more terrifying. So now that you guys know that Naruto was promoted to Jonin, and now that you know that he was assigned a mission with Jiraiya, this is where for the next few moments we will then see Naruto and Jiraiya as they will go on a mission to locate Tsunade. As throughout their journey, we will see both Naruto and Jiraiya get to know each other better, as they'll be, learning about the other, with Jiraiya trying his best to connect with Naruto and, trying to make a familial bond with him or at least become friends, with Naruto trying to remain as professional as possible. As basically he's not letting his own emotions slip in, he's not really showing any care at all, as to him this was just a mission, a job, and he wants to be over with it. As throughout the entirety of their journey, while they'll be looking for Tsunade, during this time we will also see Naruto as he'll be training rigorously, as he tries his best to maintain his strength or even further boost it. And when Jiraiya sees this is when he then gains the idea, as this is when he then decides to try to teach Naruto the Rasengan, seeing it as a perfect way to bond, as Naruto does end up taking a keen interest in the jutsu. As after explaining to Naruto exactly what the intended purpose of the Rasengan and who exactly created it, this is when Jiraiya then begins to explain all the instructions about how to learn the Rasengan. But to his surprise though, as he tries to let Naruto have his first attempt at using the Rasengan, and while he was trying to explain to Naruto exactly how to do it, this is when, to Jiraiya's surprise, midway through his explanation, this is when he then stopped, as he hears the familiar sound of the Rasengan being activated. As slowly turning to Naruto, this is when he will then see Naruto as he perfectly done the Rasengan in one hand no less. As this will cause Jiraiya to completely lose his mind, as he wonders just how the heck was this kid able to do that so easily, as he even took him a couple of months just to have that jutsu down, but yet Naruto here made it look easy, which there was a reason and a trick behind it. As you see, thanks to Naruto's unique ability from his old life, this being the balance, Naruto is actually able to use the Rasengan much easier, as the skill actually helps him as he balances out all the misfortune that he gets from not using the jutsu and turning it into fortune. Basically, every single flaw that was counted as misfortune was turned to fortune, allowing Naruto to learn the Rasengan much quicker. But also, he ends up seeing it as a different way too, as he realized that this Rasengan could be used for way more. But he decided to keep it to himself, as they had much more to do since they were still on a mission. As after Naruto had finished learning the Rasengan, and after traveling for a bit more, this is where we will then see the two of them as they will then take a break, with Jiraiya heading off to do some research, while Naruto then decides to find a hotel so that way he can just relax for a little bit. However, while Naruto ends up booking this hotel and just being in his hotel room, this is where things then take an unexpected turn. As you see, while Naruto will be temporarily alone at the hotel, this is when suddenly he would then gain a knock on his door. As wondering who it was, this is where Naruto would then approach it, as once he ends up opening the door, this is when he would then meet two familiar faces. This being that of both Kisame and Itachi, two very well-known criminals in the bingo books, and ones that Naruto most definitely knew about. As similar to the main timeline, these two were here for Naruto, and more precisely to collect the Nine Tails. However, this is where things then begin to change, as while their interaction will try to play out in the beginning similarly to the main timeline, with Itachi telling Naruto that he's forced to come along with them, this is when, to the surprise of both Kisame as well as Itachi, Naruto will then bluntly let them know that he knows who they are, and more precisely, he knows exactly why they're here. But this is when, to the surprise of both Kisame and Itachi, Naruto would then inform them that he has no care for it whatsoever, as instead he tells them that from now on, they are now his prisoners, and that they're going to be coming along with him. Now hearing this will cause Kisame to immediately laugh at Naruto's so-called arrogance. However, Itachi, being much wiser, already knew that something was up, as every last one of his instincts were already telling him that something was wrong, as this will cause tension to then build up in the entirety of this area, as both parties will be staring each other down, waiting for the other one to make the first move. As the tension continues to rise and as pressure begins to fill in, this is when suddenly it will then be interrupted though, as just like that we will then see the arrival of Sasuke, as he will be there determined to defeat Itachi and get revenge for the clan. However, unfortunately for Sasuke, he would still end up losing in this timeline, as he simply stood no match against Itachi. As after once again getting beaten up just like he does in the main timeline, and right as Itachi was about to put him under the Genjutsu, this is when Naruto would then intervene, immediately slashing at Itachi, causing him to dodge out the way and let go of Sasuke. As Sasuke would just be there laying on the ground, as he would look up at Naruto telling him to run away, as he thinks that Naruto stands no chance against Itachi. However, to Sasuke's surprise, as the fight between Naruto as well as Kisame and Itachi would then begin, we will then see the complete opposite. As while Sasuke will be watching it all, he will see Naruto as he's able to compete with both Itachi and Kisame, and not only that, but would actually be able to outclass the two of them. As for some odd reason, every single thing that Itachi and Kisame would throw at Naruto, it would just simply not work on him. Matter of fact, it would seem to make things worse. As the longer as the fight went on, we would then see that any type of damage they would throw at Naruto would seem to be reflected back onto them. As midway through the fight, you would see that randomly they would just get hit with more and more injuries that couldn't be explained. Although while Naruto, he seemed to be completely fine. Even after taking a full slash from Samehara, Naruto would just seem unfazed by it, while Kisame, he would legit have a ginormous slash mark across his chest. As needless to say, Sasuke would just be there watching everything in complete shock, as a swirl of emotions were wandering through his mind, as he just wonders exactly who was Naruto Uzumaki, and how was he able to accomplish something so breathtaking right now. As now turning into the fight, we will then see Naruto as he will be casually standing there with his katana drawn, as he would have a calm expression while staring down at both Itachi and Kisame, who by this point you could see that they were heavily injured. Like if you were to take a good look at the environment, you would think that it would be like a chaotic battle with both sides being incredibly injured, but it was just Itachi and Kisame, as it seems as if whatever injury that was thrown at Naruto had already healed or was never landed in the first place. Meanwhile, Itachi and Kisame, they look like they went through the ringer, as you could literally see multiple types of cuts, multiple types of burns, slashes, a bunch of stuff literally all over their bodies and everything, as even their Akatsuki drip was destroyed midway through the fight. As you'll see the two of them panting by this point as they try their best to, think of a way to get out of the situation. This is when Itachi then begins to think that it might be time for them to escape. As he would tell Kisame this, with Kisame getting extremely upset about it, since it really damaged his pride to know that he lost to a kid. But still nonetheless, he would have to agree with it, as this is where we would then see both Itachi and Kisame then try to run. However, little did they know that it would be a foolish attempt. As right as they began trying to escape, this is when Naruto would then let them know about what he said earlier. How the two of them were going to be coming with him and that from here on out, they were his prisoners. As right after saying that, as Itachi and Kisame would then try to get away, this is when a familiar sound would then be heard. As we, the audience, would hear the spiraling sound of the Rasengan. As you will see Naruto, as by this point now, he already put the katana back to its sheath and had already created two Rasengans this time, on both sides of on both hands. As he would stare down at both Itachi and Kisame as they try to get away, this is when in the very next few moments, Naruto would then disappear. As in the very next moment, he would then appear in front of both Itachi and Kisame, with both of them being too slow to react. As in the very next moment, we will then see Naruto as he slams Rasengan directly into both of their stomachs, with both of them just gritting their teeth and coughing up blood, as they will then be slammed directly into the walls of the hotel. As in the very next few moments, after cratering into the walls and after slamming through it, this is where we will then see both Itachi and Kisame, as they'll be knocked unconscious completely, with both of them being marked by a familiar spiral pattern on both of their stomachs. As just like that, Naruto had defeated both members of the Akatsuki by himself, showing Sasuke how he truly was a level beyond anything that Sasuke could imagine, as Sasuke would just be there watching it all, completely breathtaking, as he couldn't believe his eyes, as he never thought he would actually see the day that Itachi would fall, or at least he always did think of it, but he thought it was going to be to him. As now seeing that Itachi was defeated and being shocked about it while also being in an incredible amount of pain, this is where we will then see Sasuke as he will then fall into unconsciousness, as Naruto will then look at him calmly as we will now do a time skip. So now flashing forward to after the battle, we will now see a couple of the events as they will play out similar to the main timeline, with the first being Jiraiya's arrival, as he ends up arriving there just in time, or at least that's what he thinks, to save Naruto from the Akatsuki, since he just found out about their plan. However, this went to his surprise as he ends up arriving at the hotel. He will then see that Naruto had already gotten the entire situation taken care of, with both Akatsuki members currently right now just being held back by a certain sealing scroll, and not only that, but both of them having their chakra just kind of shut down by a seal. As Jiraiya will be looking at all this in complete shock, as Naruto would tell him that he was late. Now Jiraiya begins to apologize for it, but this is when eventually Gaara would also end up arriving, as he would end up seeing the display as well and would be shocked to see that both Akatsuki members were defeated. As after Naruto would inform him about everything that happened, this is when Guy would then, compliment him for his strength and try doing his regular routine, his act, before eventually then deciding to take both Itachi as well as Kisame back to the village in order to be in prison. And he also ends up taking Sasuke as well, since he was still incredibly injured, so they made sure to take him to a doctor. As now that this entire event was taken care of, this is where we will then see both Naruto and Jiraiya as they will then proceed to then locate Tsunade. As after a bit of traveling, they will then find her eventually at like the same restaurant that they did in the main timeline. As this is where we will then see events continue to play out until eventually it was time for Naruto and Tsunade to then make a bet, with Tsunade telling Naruto that if he can end up landing one hit on her, then she will become the Hokage. However, if Naruto can't land a hit on her, then that means she gets to take all his money, and also that both him and Jiraiya have to go. Now Jiraiya, hearing this bet, would immediately try to, shut it all down as he tries to persuade Tsunade, but this is when Naruto would then calmly agree to it. As Jiraiya, hearing this, would then turn to Naruto, reminding him that Tsunade was the legendary Sannin. But this is when Naruto would then let him know that they were here on a mission and that he didn't have time for this. As hearing just the sheer so-called arrogance in Naruto's voice, this would cause Tsunade to then smirk as she thinks that she's going to be able to put down an arrogant upstart. But little did she know that whatever idea that she thought this was going to go down had completely flown out the window the moment she challenged Naruto in this one. As now turning to the area where the fight would happen, we will then see Tsunade and Naruto as they will square off with each other, with Jiraiya being concerned about what's going to happen to Naruto and also Shizune being the same way. However, unaware to the two of them was the fact that Naruto already know how this was going to end. As Tsunade still being drunk and being all arrogant, she would then allow Naruto to have the first move. And Naruto, hearing this, says less, as this is when he would then suddenly disappear right before Tsunade's eyes. As this will cause Tsunade to then get on high alert as she begins to try to locate Naruto, only to feel a sharp pain on her back, as this is when she would then feel Naruto then kick her as she would then be sent flying a couple of feet away. As this will surprise both Shizune as well as Jiraiya, as they can't help but look at the shocking display, as Naruto would calmly just land on the ground while looking at her with a blank expression, asking her if the bet was over and if he had won. Now this will cause Tsunade, who by this point had finally reeled back from the impact, to then grow angry, as she would immediately turn to Naruto and then try to punch him as she tells him that he just got lucky. However, this is when, to her surprise, Naruto would then be able to casually dodge her punch, as in the very next moment, this is when Naruto would then calmly and supposedly end up slashing her across the chest. As this shocking display will cause everyone in the vicinity to just immediately panic, with Jiraiya immediately rushing over to Naruto planning to stop him, and Shizune already pulling out like a bunch of needles in order to stab Naruto with them, so that way she could protect Tsunade. However, this is when, as they were about to do so, to their surprise, we will then see that there was no blood whatsoever, there was no slash mark, heck, his katana wasn't even drawn, as all that was nothing more but a pure illusion that was created by Naruto's pure killing intent that was focused. As Tsunade herself, she herself would feel as if she had gotten slashed, as she had jumped a couple of feet away and was literally breathing heavily as she clutched her chest by this point, as she truly believed that, Naruto had truly cut her. As Naruto would look at her calmly, letting her know that he had won the bet, and that meant that she was going to become Hokage. And Tsunade, hearing that word, this will cause her to then have once again more and more flashbacks, as due to having high intense emotions during this moment, and due to her being drunk, this is when she would then punch the ground, refusing once again to become Hokage. As due to punching the ground, this will cause a large amount of earth spikes to then rush towards Naruto, as this will cause Jiraiya as well as Shizune to then panic as they attempt to save him, only to then be surprised, as in the very next moment we would then hear the familiar sound of the Rasengan, as Tsunade hearing this sound would then look up, only to then be surprised as Naruto using the Rasengan casually would then immediately break through any earth spike that may approach him. As this attack would be so powerful that legit just the sheer impact from it with it connecting with the earth spike would be enough to actually cause Tsunade to then stumble, as she would then collapse down to the ground. As now, after stopping Tsunade's latest temper tantrum, this is when Naruto would then calmly tell her that if it was up to him and if it was his personal opinion, he wouldn't even want Tsunade as a Hokage. As being reminded of his old life, this is where Naruto would then explain to Tsunade the values of being a leader and exactly what they need to do and what they need to set out to accomplish. As that's when he then says that all the core personality traits to be a leader, he finds none of them in Tsunade, letting her know that the way she is right now, she is currently unfit to be a leader. And hearing this from Naruto, and once again, still being drunk and emotionally high right now, this would cause Tsunade to then grow furious, as this is when she would then immediately storm off quietly, as she then tells them that she's not going to become Hokage. And Jiraiya seeing this is when he then decides to go with her, as Shizune then looks at Naruto apologizing to him, but also telling him that he went too far. With Naruto after hearing this showing no care at all, as he calmly tells her that he did what he needed to do, and that it was her fault for making the bet in the first place. As right after that, we will then see Naruto as he then wanders back to the hotel to rest, as he seems to be completely relaxed, even though this would seem to be a disaster. Or at least that's what you would think. However, after the following night, as Naruto would just rest and have his little moment, this is when we would then turn to the next day, only to see that Tsunade would be there with her bags packed and everything, as she would then say that it was time for them to head back to the Hidden Leaf Village, as she decides to take up the mantle of being the 5th Hokage. Now hearing this will cause Shizune to then be shocked, as she begins to wonder exactly what caused Tsunade to then change up like this, with Jiraiya coming in as he begins to smirk, saying that he was very convincing. However, Tsunade would then shut down Jiraiya's attempt to have an ego boost, as she reveals that Jiraiya had nothing to do with it. Rather, it was actually because of what Naruto had said. As she then tells Naruto that he had insulted her pride, explaining how Naruto had called her out on all the flaws that she had, and also saying that she didn't have any of the personality traits of being a leader. As she ends up telling Naruto that he wants him to take it back, with Naruto declining, saying that once again, he sees no signs of any of these personality traits of a leader. And after hearing this will cause Tsunade to then smirk, as she then decides to make a bet, telling Naruto that if she ends up going back to the village and ends up becoming the Hokage while showing off these personality traits that Naruto was talking about, then in exchange, Naruto himself would have to become Hokage one day. As hearing this bet, this will cause both Jiraiya as well as Shizune to then look at Tsunade in shock. As Tsunade smirking would then begin to explain that if Naruto knew about how to be a leader and all that stuff, then he wouldn't mind being a leader right after she ends up retiring. As by this point, if you guys don't know, in Tsunade's mind, she saw this as a perfect revenge, since not only did that mean that Naruto had to uphold his word, but not only that, but that also meant that he was going to have to suffer the work of being Hokage. And Tsunade knew that that job was way worse than you would actually think it is. As she saw this as a way to get back at Naruto, since she was still going to become Hokage regardless, but she might as well get just a little bit of revenge on him. And turning to Naruto, we will see him think about this for a little bit before agreeing, as he saw this as just a quicker way to get Tsunade back to the village. Plus, he didn't even mind being the leader, as in fact, he's already done this before. As now that the two of them had accepted the bet, this is where we will then see the entirety of the group as they will then head back to the Hidden Leaf Village. As soon upon their arrival, this is where we will then see Tsunade, as after learning about all the things she needs to do and basically the entirety of her job as the Hokage, this is where Tsunade would then be accepted into the mantle of being the 5th Hokage. As now with these events taken care of, this is where we're now gonna do a time skip. So now turning to the next couple of days, after Tsunade was turned into the 5th Hokage, we will now turn to see none other than Sasuke, as by this point now, he has been kind of just in a slump lately. You can literally see it as throughout the entirety of his time with Team 7, by this point now, it just seems completely detached by it all. He just seems to be out of it. Now both Kakashi and Sakura have tried talking to him to see what was up, but Sasuke did not open up. As after Tsunade had returned back to the village and became the 5th Hokage, she did end up healing everyone just like she does in the main timeline. However, the thing is, after she healed up Sasuke and after he was free to roam around these past following days, we see Sasuke just being in a slump. As by this point now, Itachi had been captured. But you see, Sasuke, he had played no part in his downfall. as this was his long-held dream, as he always believed that in his mind he would one day find Itachi and then enact vengeance on him. But unfortunately, this dream seemed to collapse, as instead Naruto had accomplished exactly what Sasuke couldn't. And coming to this realization that Sasuke now literally had done nothing for the capture of Itachi, and now saying that he has nothing else to do, this would cause Sasuke to become very unsure about what he should do next. As currently right now, Sasuke was dealing with a loss of purpose, which we would see affect him heavily throughout these next following days, as even though Sasuke was continuously doing his regular routine, we could see him become more and more detached from it all. As this caused Sasuke to then soon do something very drastic, as on a very certain day, as everyone else would be chilling and everything else would just be normal, we would then see Sasuke as he would enter Tsunade's office, as he would calmly give her his hidden leaf headband. As this is where Sasuke then tells her that he resigns from the shinobi forces, as by this point now Sasuke has truly believed that there was nothing left for him to fight for. As now that he finished resigning, this is where Sasuke would then return back to his home just to lay down and just figure out what to do next. But you see, meanwhile, while all this was happening, we would then turn to see Sakura, as by this point now Sakura has realized a change in Sasuke and has been extremely concerned. She tried talking to him, but unfortunately he didn't really open up to her and just kind of shoved her aside and just continued on moving. She tried getting Kakashi to talk to him, but even that didn't work. So being desperate and wanting to help Sasuke, Sakura then turned to her only option left, this being Naruto. And although she knows that Naruto doesn't really see them as friends, considering the fact that he's always professional, Sakura still decided to contact him, considering the fact that she thought he was the best option. Seeing as the fact that unaware to Sasuke and also seemingly unaware to Naruto was the fact that Sasuke deep down actually admired him, and Sakura was able to see it. As Naruto was someone who was, or in Sasuke's eyes, someone he highly respected and someone he kind of wanted to be. Considering the fact that Naruto was the same age as Sasuke and Sakura, yet was accomplishing a lot more and continuously building the life that he always wanted using his own bare hands without relying on others. As Sasuke seeing this would obviously have a large amount of respect for Naruto, and in some cases would really like to learn from him and be like him, with Sakura being able to notice all of this as she herself was also inspired by Naruto too. So seeing that Naruto was possibly the only one that Sasuke would listen to at the moment, this would cause Sakura to then, rush to him to ask for his help. As when she ends up finding Naruto, she would end up begging for him to talk to Sasuke, explaining that he seems to be, down in the dumps, and she would explain that Naruto would possibly be the only person that could actually reach out to him. And after hearing this, Naruto at first would wonder why exactly would he even do this in the first place, but after seeing just how much Sakura was really, trying to get him to help, and seeing how desperate she really was, as legit she was crying and everything just for Naruto to talk to Sasuke, this would cause Naruto to then sigh as he then decides to do so. As going to Sasuke's apartment complex, we will see Naruto as he ends up knocking on the door, to which Sasuke ends up opening. Now Sasuke would look at Naruto, and immediately Naruto could see that Sasuke's eyes were hollow. They seemed to be lost and just detached from everything. As Sasuke would look at Naruto wondering why he came and asking him what he wants, with Naruto telling him that Sakura had told him to come here to talk to him. As hearing this would cause Sasuke to sigh, already annoyed by the fact that Sakura was trying to intervene. But still nonetheless, he would ask Naruto if he wants to, get some tea or something, to which Naruto would actually, want some. As after that, we will then see them as they'll be casually just chilling in Sasuke's dining room, with both of them just sipping on some tea while just enjoying the peace and silence. As soon afterwards, this is where Naruto would then begin talking to Sasuke, asking him what was up, with Sasuke trying to deny that anything was up and that he was just, living. But after seeing that Naruto was not at all falling for it, this would cause Sasuke to then grow angry as he begins to ask Naruto why he even cares. As due to currently right now being in front of Naruto and being reminded of his failure, this would cause Sasuke to then begin to go on a rant, telling Naruto that he has no idea exactly what he's feeling right now, and telling Naruto that he has no idea what it's like to struggle, what it's like to go through the true pain. Basically the very same thing that he would say to Kakashi when Kakashi tried to talk to him in the main timeline, he would say this to Naruto in this timeline. But you see, after going on this rant, this is where Naruto would then explain to Sasuke that he knows very clear and very well what Sasuke means. As not only in this life but also in this old one, Naruto has experienced a large amount of loss. But that didn't mean that he was going to start acting out and being all depressed like Sasuke was. And matter of fact, this only made him more motivated to strive for his higher purpose. As right after Naruto would explain this to Sasuke, this would cause Sasuke to then grow angry, as tossing aside the teacup, this is when he then screams at Naruto about what purpose could he possibly have. As Sasuke ends up explaining that Naruto had took away his one and only goal, which was to kill Itachi. As now that Itachi was captured, and now that Sasuke couldn't really do anything to him by this point, this means that he was left with nothing at all. As right after coming to this realization, Sasuke would then once again slump, realizing once again how just how pathetic he is by this point now, as he realizes that this might be the most rock bottom moment of his life since the Uchiha massacre. As now just being there wallowing in his failure and the fact that, he couldn't really save anyone and he couldn't really stop Itachi either, this is where Naruto would then finally end up speaking up once again. As this is when he then begins to tell Sasuke that if he's this upset and this frustrated about not having a goal, then why doesn't he just simply create one? As I know I'm simplifying it a lot for like the viewers and everything, but Naruto really here is giving Sasuke some actual true advice on this one, as he would basically explain to Sasuke that if now his goal of Itachi was now out of reach, then he should just simply create a new one. Explain to Sasuke that life is too young to be wasting it on just one thing, and that he should try exploring and find more things to do. As Naruto would explain this in his typical Talk no Jutsu fashion, as even though he may be Hugram's reincarnation, that didn't mean that there wasn't still pieces of Naruto still there. As Sasuke hearing this would cause him to then, think about it for a moment, as Naruto now realizing that he has said enough, this is when he would then decide to leave, thanking Sasuke for the tea before exiting out the door. As then now doing a miniature time skip to a couple of moments later, right after the discussion, this is where we will then see the entirety of Team 7, or more precisely what was left, as we will see Kakashi and Sakura with them just being there for the latest training session, as they'll be upset to realize that Sasuke was not there and that Naruto currently right now was away on a mission. However, this is when, to their surprise, they'll then hear familiar footsteps, as we will then hear the voice of Sasuke as he would ask if he was late. As suddenly turning to look, they will see Sasuke once again, but this time he would have the familiar hidden leaf headband on his forehead, as he would be there with his hands in his pocket, obviously trying to look cool and everything. As with a smirk, he would then ask what's next up for their training session. As seeing Sasuke back once again, this would cause both Kakashi and Sakura to then be happy, with Sakura sending a little mental thanks to Naruto, as she planned in the future to repay the favor whenever she gets a chance. As now with these events taken care of, this is where we can now do a miniature time skip. As flashing forward to the next following days, we will now turn to see Tsunade. As on this certain day, she will then call forth all her shinobis, with them being assembled into a ginormous room. As after seeing that she got all their attention, as in this room we will see all the Chunins with Naruto included, all the Jonins, and even all the Genins, as we see the entirety of Team 7 plus the Konoha 12. This is where Tsunade would then begin to discuss with them about current events that were happening. By this point now, she would inform them about the Akatsuki and how currently right now they were a dangerous organization that were currently on the move. As it seemed as if thanks to Naruto capturing both Itachi as well as Kisame, this would cause the Akatsuki to begin already making their moves in order to capture all the tailed beasts, as they decided not to take any chances since their two members had already been captured. And right after getting informed about this, thanks to Jiraiya's spy network, this would cause Tsunade to then decide to prepare her shinobis, as she would order all of them to undergo intense training throughout the years, while also making sure to be high alert for the village. As already sensing that battle may be up ahead, one that they have never felt before, this will be the time where Tsunade would then prepare the village for whatever threats may loom over the horizon. As now with Tsunade giving out these orders, this is where we can now do a time skip, to now a total of 3 years passing for the Hidden Leaf Village. So now turning to the present moment, after those years had went by, we would now turn to see the Hidden Leaf Village once again. And by this point now, we will see as it had underwent a large amount of advancements throughout the years, with it transforming into one of the much more powerful and innovative villages in history. As thanks to Tsunade's leadership and due to the fact that she did end up ordering her shinobis to still be in the village but still train, this would cause the Hidden Leaf Village to enter into one of the much more prosperous times that they ever been in throughout history. As we will see the Hidden Leaf Village by this point already awakening to new technology, and we'll see it being much more safer compared to how it was before. As already we can see that things were going good. But you see amidst this prosperity, we will then see an urgent mission then arise for Gaara. As just like in the main timeline, Gaara and his siblings did get sent back to the Sand Village, to where Gaara would then eventually become its Hokage, or Kazekage, sorry about that. And after getting this urgent mission report, this is where Tsunade would then decide to send out her best team, as this is where we would then see the entirety of Team 7 as they would be sent to go rescue Gaara. Now for the events that happen here, for Gaara getting captured by the Akatsuki and everything, we will see them still play out similar to the main timeline. However, here things would go much more smoothly and also much quicker, with the main reason behind it being the fact that not only is Team 7 completely formed, with it being Sasuke, Sakura, Naruto, and Kakashi, as by this point now all of them are Jonins, but even better is the fact that all of them had gotten an extreme power boost since the time skip, with Naruto being especially recognized out of the three of them. Because if you guys don't know, by this point Naruto is now known as the most dangerous shinobi across the elemental nations, as thanks to his efforts of rigorous training and also having achieved multiple different things on missions whenever he was out of the village, this would cause Naruto's reputation to then soar throughout the years, as this would cause him to be extremely well known throughout the entirety of the elemental nations, and causing him to now have a warning to where basically he must be avoided at all costs. And we the audience would soon know why. As turning to when the Akatsuki members were trying to extract the One Tails from Gaara, this is when Naruto as well as the rest of Team 7 would then arrive. As immediately upon their arrival, they would then engage into combat, with Deidara and Sasori facing off against the entirety of Team 7. But unfortunately, the two Akatsuki members stood no chance, as the dual combination of both Sakura and Sasuke was enough to easily take care of Sasori, and enough to fatally injure Deidara, who tries to escape using his clay creations. However, during his attempt of escape, as he would try to do so by making a ginormous explosion, and after trying to, run away, this is where suddenly he would then feel a sharp cut that would pass through his neck. Now Deidara would freeze for a moment before suddenly turning around to see Naruto, who would be calmly staring him down. As Deidara seeing Naruto would then immediately try creating a clay explosion in order to either A, take him out, or B, run away, but right as he was about to do so, this is when suddenly he would begin to see the world upside down. And by that, I mean his head was literally rolling off his shoulders. As this happened so quick that Deidara had no idea how it even happened, as he could have sworn for sure that Naruto had missed his attack. As Naruto would be calmly staring at Deidara coldly, as his body would then collapse down to the ground, as he had fully passed away. As now with Deidara taken care of and also Sasori, this is when Naruto would then attempt to return back to his teammates. However, supposedly unaware to him was the fact that a few distances away, we will see White Zetsu, as currently right now he'll be collecting information about Naruto, which he had been doing so for the next couple of years when the time skip was happening. But right as he was about to collect more information about him and right as he was about to escape, this is when suddenly in the very next moment he would then feel a sharp pain. As suddenly looking down, this is where White Zetsu would then see a familiar katana that was stabbing him through the stomach. As slowly turning around to get a good look, this is where he would then see Naruto, as he wonders exactly how he was able to do that. As Naruto would then tell him that he's getting tired of being observed, and telling White Zetsu that if he's not going to do nothing more but be a waste of space, that he shouldn't even exist. As by this point now, this is where Naruto would then pull out the katana, obviously, putting it back into his sheath before suddenly poofing away, revealing that it was nothing more but a shadow clone, as the White Zetsu himself would then think that he had survived, since after all, Naruto didn't know that something like that was not going to just simply kill him. However, unfortunately for the White Zetsu, he had no idea exactly what Naruto's ability was, and also he had no idea exactly how screwed up he really was in this situation. As the cut that had the stab that had supposedly not killed him would soon do so. As in the very next moment, we will literally see White Zetsu be cut in half completely, with him wondering exactly what just happened, as his mind is not even able to register what had just occurred. As this would happen all in a split instant, all the while Naruto would be returning back to his comrades. As now with these events taken care of, this is where we would then turn to see Naruto and the rest of his comrades, as they would then return Gaara back to the Sand Village, which would actually be a good thing, as this would actually end up strengthening the alliance between both the Hidden Leaf Village and the Sand Village, causing them to once again be at peace after all the events that happened with the Orochimaru. But now that we're done with this though, let's talk about the Akatsuki. As needless to say, the Akatsuki has been going through a very rough draft, and with this latest event right now, they're not really doing too good as well. As you see, throughout the years that went by, and while everyone else was training, they also were sent out on missions. And during the time, we would actually see that the Akatsuki by this point was really getting hunted down. Even though at first they were the dominant force, considering the fact that, they are the Akatsuki, soon we will then see that every last one of their members begin to get plucked one by one. As throughout the years that went by, we will see the Akatsuki as they will lose allies as well as supporters thanks to Konoha's relentless efforts, leaving only Pain and Konan left to carry out their original plan. As now being faced with basically complete ruin as we now turn to Pain, we will see him devise one last plan to salvage their ambition. As realizing by this point now that the Akatsuki was at a dead end by this point, like they have run out of everything. There was no Deidara, there was no Sasori, there was no Itachi, there was no Kisame. Literally a majority of their members are gone, leaving only Pain and Konan and Obito if you really want to consider him, but let's be honest, he doesn't really do much until the very end. So now realizing the situation that they're in, Pain then decides to make one last plan. One last way to achieve their ambition, their goal, the main reason why the Akatsuki was created in the first place. And this was the final plan that he could create, since it was all or nothing on this one. As after quickly informing Konan about this is where we will then see the two of them as they gather any supplies that they had left as they prepare for their final stand, as well as their final attempt to achieve their dreams. Meanwhile, while all this was happening, we will then turn back to the Inly village, as by this point now, Naruto and his squad have returned. And after explaining everything that happened with Gaara and everything else, and after explaining how the mission was completed, this is where we will then see them then be sent off, only for Sasuke to then be told to stay. As Tsunade by this point has actually gotten a very special mission for him, as she will then hand him over a specific document. As you see throughout the years, Tsunade wasn't just, laying down and being lazy, she was actually taking up the role of leadership very seriously. After all, she did have a bet to win. As throughout those years that went by, Tsunade had not only been training, but also making sure to keep the village up at in shape and also making sure that it innovated. But also throughout those years, Tsunade had made sure to take care of any other lingering flaws that the Hidden Leaf Village may have, with currently right now the only one remaining being none other than Danzo. As throughout those years that went by, Tsunade had made sure to uncover any incriminating evidence against Danzo, as once she had finally compiled enough of it, this is when she then decided to give Sasuke the task, as she saw it fitting as a good way to show just that karma does exist. As now after giving Sasuke the file and explaining to him the mission about what he needs to do, this is where we will then see Sasuke as after reading the documents or reading all the information that was handed to him, this is where his eyes would actually grow wide as his Sharingan eyes begin to blaze with anger. As right now he'll be witnessing and seeing all the heinous things that Danzo had done, as well as how he was the main reason behind the assassination of the Uchiha clan. As after being informed of basically everything that Danzo had done, and after being tasked with the responsibility of assassinating him, this is where Sasuke, after looking at Tsunade, would then reveal that he actually unlocked a manga kill during this time, just due to the sheer amount of anger he had awakened during this point. As he would tell Tsunade that he would gladly take care of this mission by himself, as this is where he would then head off to then face off against Danzo, as we will now do a quick change of scenes. Entering into a certain area as Danzo begins to move about his base, we will see him trying to formulate a new plan in order to take command of the Hidden Leaf Village. As by this point now, he's realized that Tsunade was doing way better than he anticipated, so he's going to have to find a new method in order to get her out of the position of power, so that way he can take over. But right as he was in the midst of thinking about all this is when suddenly he wouldn't hear a sound, as it will be odd considering the fact that he made sure that all the Anbus that he had trained or had converged, his root Anbu, made sure never to make a sound in his area. As after all, they made even a small sound, they were unfit to be his shinobi. So as he wondered exactly what was going on, this is when suddenly he would then see two of his Anbu then appear right in front of him. As he looks at them confused, telling them that he didn't call upon them, only to be surprised as their bodies would then collapse down to the ground as two familiar glowing eyes would then reveal themselves in the darkness. As Sasuke would then call out to Danzo, letting him know that his time has come. As now quickly realizing the situation, this is where we will then see Danzo attempt to escape, as he ends up cursing mentally, as by this point now, due to not getting assistance from Orochimaru and also due to the fact that he was still recovering from the surgery, that meant that he wasn't able to have the Izanagi by this point. So that meant that he really was vulnerable at this point, as he would try to call upon his Anbus to assist him. But unfortunately for him, Sasuke made sure to take care of them thoroughly, as he made sure that no one interfered in this process. As Danzo continues attempting his escape, as since he knows the in and out of his base, he would have like multiple different trap areas to where he can like crawl into or like, escape from. But unfortunately for him, Sasuke was a man on a mission. As after this game of chase would happen for quite a while, eventually Sasuke would then corner Danzo, with Danzo cursing, as this is when he would then begin to reveal his true motive, or more precisely his true nature, as he calls out to Sasuke, letting him know that he doesn't regret it one bit, as he would tell Sasuke that him and his cursed bloodline can exist in the next life. But you see, instead of being angered or being afraid, Sasuke just simply ends up smirking actually, and in fact he found it quite amusing. In seeing this response, this would cause Danzo to finally go over the edge, as suddenly revealing his chest. This is where we would then see a familiar symbol on there, as this is when he then intends to blow himself up. As right before doing so, this is when Danzo would then scream at Sasuke, letting him know that he will see him in the next life. As right as the explosion was about to be activated, this is when suddenly Danzo would then be intercepted by a sharp pain going directly through his chest. As we would then hear the familiar sounds of 1,000 birds, as suddenly from looking to behind, we would then see Sasuke, who would casually just be there behind him with his Mangekyo eyes, and more precisely with the Shidori going through Danzo's chest. As the entirety of this time, Danzo had been in a genjutsu that Sasuke set up. And Sasuke would laugh, as the very thing that Danzo kind of hated the Uchiha clan for, Sasuke had used it to defeat him. And this would cause Danzo to look at him in complete shock and in horror, as right before he passed away, this is when Sasuke would then leave him a final message, letting Danzo know that the day that he would pass away, the day that Sasuke is no longer in the living world, he would go back there to the underworld and do the same thing over and over again. As he really lets Danzo know that no matter what universe they're in, heck, even if they're no longer living, Sasuke would be the one to be above him, and he would always be the one to slay Danzo in the end. As that would be the very last thing that Danzo would hear right before he would pass away completely. As Sasuke would look down at Danzo coldly before suddenly walking away, as right before he does end up letting out a little prayer, sending his heart out to the Uchiha clan, as he hopes that they were able to see it, to see that he actually was able to get vengeance on the very man that was behind the reason for their slaughter. As now with this taken care of, this is where Sasuke would then return back to his teammates and just pretend like nothing else happened. As now with this event taken care of, this is where we will now do a time skip. So now flashing forward to the next couple of months that will go by, we will see the Hidden Leaf Village, as by this point now it has entered into an era of peace, with there being no real problems at all. The Akatsuki seemingly have died off by this point, and the Hidden Leaf Village has just continued to prosper. As everything was going well, as we would turn to see Tsunade by this point, who was smiling, as by this point now she was actually doing an extremely good job at being Hokage. As she was looking around at the village, smiling and enjoying to see how everyone else was walking around and just having their time, living their lives, this is when she would then suddenly look up, only to be confused, as Tsunade could swear that she could see a man in the sky. But right before she gets a chance to really process this, all she will see is some unknown force suddenly hitting the village, as you will see massive destruction, as we will also see her get caught up in it, as this would be the beginning of Pain's attack on the Hidden Leaf Village. As now flashing forward to the next few moments, we will then turn to see the Hidden Leaf Village once again, as by this point now we will see it being in panic, as already a large amount of it has been destroyed due to Pain's earlier attack, as him along with the 6 Path of Pains would just be roaming around the village and just trying to take down everyone and try to find Naruto. But while they would be doing this is when suddenly they will then be intercepted, as the remaining shinobis who were still able to fight would then try to face off against them. But unfortunately they really couldn't do much, since, well, Pain had the Rinnegan and there was like 6 versions of him, so yeah, needless to say they did not have the best experience. But they fought valiantly though. But as their struggle would continue to hold on, this is when suddenly entering the battle we would then see the Konoha 12, and along with them would be both Jiraiya and Kakashi. As in this timeline, Jiraiya did not pass away facing off against Pain, considering the fact that he stayed closer to the village, and also his spy network mostly did all the scoping for him. And plus, with the Akatsuki slowly dying out throughout these past following days, Jiraiya actually had some time to finally, relax for a little bit. But still, nonetheless, he did know the members were out there, he just didn't realize they were going to attack today. As now moving on from this, we would then turn to see the Konoha 12 along with Jiraiya and Kakashi as they'll face off against the 6 Paths of Pain. As now for the next passing moments, we will then see a ginormous fight just break out between the two groups, with the 6 Paths of Pain, facing off against every last one of them, with Jiraiya and Kakashi really putting in the work. Don't get me wrong, the Konoha 12 was doing good as well, but Jiraiya and Kakashi, they were just showing why they were leagues above the others. with Jiraiya being able to take care of 2 of the pains, and Kakashi being able to take care of 1, and also being able to face off against the main one. But unfortunately though, the pain that's able to bring everyone back, he would be kind of the main contender as to why the pains were able to last as long. As thanks to using the literal King of Hell, he's able to bring back the destroyed past of pains and causing them to continue fighting, as this will cause the Konoha 12 along with Jiraiya and Kakashi to begin to wear down. But still nonetheless, they continue facing off and trying their best in order to protect their village. And while doing this, midway throughout the fight, we would then see Sasuke, as by this point now, he had tried his attempt to face off against the main pain, the original. But unfortunately for him, it didn't really go as intended, as even with the manga kill, Sasuke still isn't strong enough to face off against him. As Sasuke would be looking around, wondering what exactly happened, until suddenly he would then hear Tsunade's voice call out to him. As suddenly turning to the side, he will see Tsunade, who seems to be finishing up a procedure, as she will look at Sasuke, telling him that it took a while for him to wake up. As by this point now, Tsunade was working overtime, as she was healing all the civilians and all the shinobi. She was trying to heal as many people as she possibly could, as after all, she needed to make sure that the people were good and healthy enough, while also making sure to keep them safe. But besides that, we will then turn to see Tsunade, as she'll be talking to Sasuke, informing him that he's good to go to battle. However, she does inform him that afterwards, he's not only going to feel a tremendous amount of pain, but he's going to be extremely sore as well. Now, Sasuke would wonder what she meant, only for him to then feel soreness through his eyes, as he closes and shuts, he closes them shut and open them, as he would then realize that for some reason, not only does he feel more powerful, but he also feels himself getting more and more tired as he just continues just opening his eyes, which was weird. As he looks at Tsunade, wondering what exactly she did, this is when Tsunade would then tell him to read a certain letter that was left on his lap, before she would then walk away to work on other patients. Now Sasuke will look down at his lap to see a letter, as he will be confused about who it was from, until suddenly he would then see the familiar words or familiar name of Itachi in the front of it. Now Sasuke would look at it as he would feel hesitant, before eventually suddenly gathering the strength as he would then open up the letter and read it. As this is where we would then see Itachi's final goodbye to Sasuke. As by this point now, if you guys don't know, Itachi had already been executed, him and Kisame. So unfortunately that meant that him and Sasuke never really had that moment to talk to each other, as instead Sasuke had to focus on other things and he didn't really want to focus on Itachi, considering the fact that only brought back bad memories. But by this point now, even after he had long passed away, Itachi was still looking after his younger brother, and he made sure to do so the right way, or the best way that he could at the moment. As leaving a letter, this is where Itachi would then explain to Sasuke about how he truly felt, about how he wanted to protect him, and basically explain to Sasuke that no matter how he turns out, or no matter how much he hates him, that he will be basically always on Sasuke's side. As after reading this letter, this will cause Sasuke to then feel sad, as he then grits his teeth and gets all upset by the fact that Itachi didn't tell him any of this, and that he had to find out through not only reading the documents that Danzo had left behind, but also from a letter. But this is when suddenly he will then also be surprised with the very last thing that Itachi had left him. As in the final bits of the letter, Itachi would then tell Sasuke about the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, about the ways to activate it, and more precisely, he would tell Sasuke that he had left him one last thing, as he ends up informing him about how he left behind his eyes and actually gave specific instructions to Tsunade to do it. As basically this was Itachi's last will, and he wanted to go ahead and give at least a small gift to Sasuke, as he felt as if giving Sasuke the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was his only or final attempt to actually give support to his younger brother. And Sasuke reading this will then feel anger, as he realizes exactly why he feels much more energetic, and why also he begins to feel more and more soreness throughout his eyes, as he then looks at Tsunade, as he would angrily ask her what took her so long to give him this message, and also why did she implant the eyes without his permission. With Tsunade after hearing this, sternly turning to Sasuke, letting him know that this was Itachi's final request, and after the great service that he did for the village, that she was going to have no choice but to abide by it. As she ends up telling Sasuke that for these conditions, or for everything to occur, Sasuke's very life had to be at risk, as Itachi wanted to make sure that if anything were to happen to Sasuke, or if he were to ever be in a situation where his life very well may be in danger, that Tsunade was able to not only pass along that message, but was also to give him the necessary boost of strength that he needed. As not only was this Itachi's final request, but this was also his way of saying sorry. As Sasuke, after hearing all this, could do nothing more but glare at Tsunade before turning to the letter. As reading it once again, this will cause him to then shed tears, as he can't help but feel a little bit happy, or no, he was actually happy about the fact that at the end of the day, his brother wasn't some uncruelly monster that he really thought he was. As a matter of fact, Sasuke can do nothing more but see him as a guy who just completely looked out for him, even at the cost of himself. As Sasuke would continue having his moment until suddenly he would then get up preparing to leave, as right before he does so, he would then tell Tsunade that he doesn't forgive her for hiding all this from him. But he does end up thanking her for the fact that she did end up passing the message nonetheless, as right before leaving, this is when Sasuke would immensely thank his brother and actually hope that he was at peace in the next life. As now with all this said, this is where we will then see Sasuke as he will then re-enter into the battle with a whole new ability and also getting fueled by adrenaline as well. As now with Sasuke re-entering the battlefield with this newfound strength, this is where we will then see him as he then begins to make a counter attack against the Pains. As while the entirety of the Konoha 12 along with Jiraiya and Kakashi were being exhausted and we're currently right now on a losing battle, this is where Sasuke would then intervene as he would not take care of not just one, not just two, but he would take care of all four of the Pains, including the King of Hell. As Sasuke will be doing all this thanks to his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and this will cause him to then gain a ginormous target on his back. As the only ones remaining would be none other than the Animal Pain, which would be able to summon animals, and the Original Pain, which had caused the destruction in the first place. As Sasuke now being faced with the two of them, this is when he would then smirk, as currently right now he would have a ginormous ego by this point considering the fact that he had the Eternal Mangekyo, so he believes that he'd be able to handle them by this point. But unfortunately for Sasuke, that didn't really last long, as although in the beginning of the fight when it came to these two Pains, Sasuke was actually on the top of it all, considering the fact that he was still getting the power boost from the Eternal Mangekyo, plus he was on adrenaline. Soon afterwards, Sasuke would begin to get exhausted. He'll begin to feel tired as the effects from the surgery and also from using the Eternal Mangekyo so suddenly like that will then suddenly begin to kick in. As midway throughout the fight, as him and Pain would continue facing off against each other, Sasuke would begin to get beaten down. And it would be enough to the point where he would fall completely into unconsciousness and will be at death's door. As with the main Pain holding Sasuke by the neck as he would then summon out a metal rod, preparing to stab Sasuke with it, this is when suddenly, right as Sasuke was about to pass away, this is when Naruto would then arrive at the nick of time. As not only would he put Sasuke a safe distance away from Pain, but he would also destroy Pain's metal rod. As Pain would just be there looking on in complete shock, as even with the Rinnegan he couldn't keep track of Naruto. As now that Naruto had arrived on the battlefield, this is when he would then apologize to everyone, as this is when he then lets them know that he's going to take care of it from here. As now, with Naruto's arrival on the battlefield, this is where the fight between both Pain and Naruto would then begin. So to begin the fight, we will now begin with Naruto, as he'll be staring down the two remaining Pains. As both of them will be staring him down, this is when the Animal Path will then decide to make the first move, as it attempts to summon out a ginormous bird as it would appear right there in front of Naruto, as it will stare him down with the Rinnegan eyes, all while Naruto would remain calm and composed, not at all affected by it. As the bird would then try lunging at Naruto, attempting to eat him whole, this is when in the very next moment, in a blink of an eye, we will then see this ginormous bird then be cut in half completely, shocking the Animal Path but not surprising the main Pain, as he had been able to notice it as he realizes that Naruto had been able to cut it in half just by simply using his sword. As by the time that Naruto had finished cutting the beast in half, he had returned the sword back into its sheath, already letting Pain know that Naruto most definitely deserved the title of being the most dangerous shinobi in the modern era, but that didn't terrify him at all. As for the next following moments, we will then see the Animal Path as it continues summoning out more and more animals in order to attack Naruto, with Naruto taking care of every last one of them while calmly approaching the two Pains, acting as if it was just a simple walk. Now eventually, after the Animal Path will run out of animals, it will then try rushing at Naruto with a metal rod, but that'll be its biggest mistake, as immediately in a blink of an eye, we will then see this Pain as it will be cut in half as well. As once again Naruto would do this in a blink of an eye, causing only him as well as the original Pain to be the only people left standing. As now saying that he was the only one left, this is where the main Pain would then finally decide to act, as he would immediately pull out the Shinra Tensei in order to blow Naruto away, with Naruto seemingly getting hit by it, as he would take massive damage, enough to the point where you could see even his clothing and everything else be destroyed by it, as Pain would calmly look at him. However, in the very next moment, this is when Pain would then feel a tremendous amount of pain then spread throughout his entire body, as he would then feel the shockwave of his very own attack going through his muscles and causing multiple tears, as we would then see multiple bleeding holes begin to appear throughout Pain's body, as he would have to literally hold himself together as he wonders what exactly is going on, as he would grit his teeth in pain, as he would try to figure out what happened to him, only for a voice to then call out. As walking out of the dust and debris, this is where we will then see Naruto, only for him to then be revealed to be completely fine. as that earlier attack from Pain seemingly didn't happen at all, as not even Naruto's clothes were destroyed at all during this supposed attack. As Pain would be looking on in pure confusion, wondering what just happened, only for Naruto to interrupt his thinking process, letting Pain know that it was pointless, that he shouldn't even try to figure it out, since after all, the conclusion will all end the same, with that being that Pain was gonna die today, and that Naruto was just gonna continue on living. Now Pain hearing this would obviously grow angry, as the fight between him and Naruto would begin to intense, as the two of them begin to go back and forth, with Naruto now truly beginning to fight against Pain, with Pain throwing everything he's got at Naruto only for it not to work, although Naruto will be landing his own set of blows onto Pain, even when Pain is trying to block using the Shinra Tensei, which for some reason, something seems to be getting in the way of it. There would be times when the technique would activate, but at the same time, there were times when it wouldn't, and in fact, he would just feel even more pain get reflected back onto him, as this will cause Pain to immediately wonder what exactly was going on, as him and Naruto will continue fighting until eventually Pain will be on his last legs. As by this point now, he had wasted everything. He had done all his techniques, he had tried every single method he could possibly think of, but Naruto was able to overwhelm him. Naruto was somehow able to overcome everything he threw at him, and for some reason, everything that usually went his way was no longer working for him. Not even his own jutsus, as throughout the fight, he would actually have his jutsus completely fail on him and causing him just to feel more and more pain. As this would end up leading to Pain now realizing that there was nothing that he could do. Even in a last ditch attempt, which was the Chubaku Tensei, he realized that as soon as he tried to activate it, his muscles and just his entire body was getting destroyed just for simply attempting it. So this caused Pain to have no choice but to stop, as he now realizes that there was nothing that he could do. As now realizing that these were his final moments, this is when Pain would then look up at Naruto, asking him, what exactly is he? How was he able to accomplish all this? It made no sense. As he tries to ask Naruto how was it possible for him to completely turn everything against him when he was the one that was supposed to bring balance to the world, when he was the one that was supposed to bring peace. But this is when Naruto would then calmly look at Pain before suddenly revealing something. As now that Pain was now truly beginning to go at death's door, this is when Naruto would then suddenly use the balance. As suddenly, right as Pain was close to dying and everything, and right as his body was failing on him, Pain would then see it, at a ginormous scale. But this one would be completely different compared to what Haku saw. As unlike the one that Haku saw, which was obviously of course very big and everything, and was looming over Naruto and also Haku himself, this one that Pain would be seeing, it would be one that was not only just a balance between both of them, but the balance of the entirety of the elemental nations, the very world of Naruto. As Pain will be seeing everything that Naruto is actually in control of, as Naruto will reveal that everything in this world, everything that is functioning right now is because of him. He literally is the balance between this world. He's the thing that keeps everything at bay. And Naruto would let Pain know this, as right before Pain would die, Naruto would let him know straight up that he wasn't the one that was supposed to bring balance to this world, as instead it was always and forever will be Naruto, as he would explain it straight up right before Pain would pass away, as Naruto would make sure to finish him off cleanly. As now with the final Pain being defeated, this is where we would then turn to the very next few moments. As Naruto easily being able to track where Nagato was from this point, he would easily then head off to the sanctuary, to where once he gets there, he would then find not only Nagato but also Konan. Now Nagato would be there, as Konan would try to protect them, only for Nagato to then tell her to let go, as instead he actually wants to see Naruto directly. As Konan hearing this would be confused, but she would still obey Nagato's request. As right after she will end up leaving, this is where Naruto would then approach Nagato, and right as Nagato would look at Naruto, he would then see the very same thing from earlier, the ginormous scale and also exactly the power that Naruto holds, the power of the balance. As he ends up realizing that Naruto here truly had the power to completely tip the scales of his very world, as he was the one that could truly bring peace to it, something that he had failed to do so. As now realizing that the future was secured and that he didn't need to do anything else, this is when Nagato would then apologize straight up to Naruto, apologizing for everything that he had done, and then telling Naruto that he will make sure to right his wrongs. And Naruto hearing this wouldn't say anything, as instead, already looking at the scale, Naruto could see it tipping to a certain direction, already realizing what Nagato was going to do, but decided to let it happen. As just like in the main timeline, Nagato would then sacrifice his own life to then resurrect everybody. Everybody that's in the rubble, everyone that died during the first Shinra Tensei, and everyone that got caught up in all the destruction and everything, he made sure to bring them back. as this would actually end up surprising everyone back in the Hidden Leaf Village, as they were surprised when they just suddenly came back from the dead. But still, this caused many people to feel happy as they realized that Naruto had succeeded. And while at the same moment, as Naruto would look at all this, and as Nagato would say his final goodbyes to not only Naruto but also Konan, this is where Naruto would then supposedly end up leaving the area to head back to the Hidden Leaf Village. As meanwhile during this time, as Konan would look at Nagato's body and prepare to bury him, this is when she would then be run up on by Obito. As just like in the main timeline, the fight between Obito and Konan would then play out, as Konan would be extremely upset with Obito as he was the main reason why Nagato pushed himself so far, with Obito of course ignoring all this and simply wanting the Rinnegan, as that was the main reason why he was even here. As for the next few moments, we will see the fight between the two of them continue to rage on until it eventually ends up reaching its end, with Obito being in the process of choking the life out of Konan. As right as Konan was about to pass away and right as she was literally accepting her death, this is when suddenly, to both her and Obito's surprise, this is when he would then suddenly get stabbed directly in the stomach, and by him I mean Obito. As Obito and Konan would look on in complete shock, as both of them would then look behind Obito to see none other than Naruto, who had appeared in the nick of time. As seeing him, this will cause both Obito and Konan to then be surprised, with Obito asking Naruto how was he able to find them and also how did he even know about him. As this is when Naruto would then reveal that he sensed Obito nearby, as he realized that Obito was there watching the entirety about what happened with Nagato and Konan, and he also realized that Obito was the main reason behind everything, especially considering the fact that that wasn't the first time that Obito had stalked Naruto, as whenever Naruto was out on a mission or whenever Naruto had an encounter with the Akatsuki members, he could always sense Obito nearby. And although Naruto could at any moment had interfered in any process to stop him, Naruto decided to bide his time and simply let Obito enjoy his final moments of delusion. Until now, as Naruto finally decided that it was time for him to remove Obito from the equation, considering the fact that Naruto was able to see that whenever Obito was around, the balance, or more precisely the scale that he usually had, would always seem to tip just a little bit. And Naruto would make sure to shut down everything from happening, of course, but he could always see that whenever Obito was around, the scale would then tip a little bit, and this would cause him to be upset, as he would realize that the longer he lets Obito live, the more disaster would then approach. So he decided to take care of the problem here and now. As Obito, now realizing the situation that he was in, he would then try to make his escape, as he would try to use the Kamui, only to then be surprised as blood would then suddenly shoot out from his eyes, as he then curses as he realized that the technique had backfired on him tremendously. As Obito, now realizing that he couldn't get away, would then turn to Naruto one last time, cursing him out, but Naruto wouldn't care any less. As instead, Naruto would then suddenly use a katana as he would then stab Obito through the heart, making sure to truly finish him off as Obito would then pass away. As now with these events taken care of, this is where we can now do a time skip. As now flashing forward through multiple years now, passing all these events, this is where we will then turn to see the Hidden Leaf Village once again. As by this point now, due to Akatsuki being taken care of, and due to many future problems also being taken care of along the way, we will then see the entirety of the Elemental Nations as it enters into an era of peace, with everything going smoothly. As the main reason behind this would be none other than Naruto, as by this point now, Naruto has officially established himself as not only the strongest shinobi in the entirety of this era, but also the strongest in history. As throughout his many years of living, Naruto was able to gain multiple amounts of achievements, with the main ones not only being the fact that he took care of the Akatsuki, but also being the one that actually was able to establish peace among the villages. As due to all of Naruto's efforts, the Elemental Nations would be how it is right now. As now with that said, this is where we will then turn to the final moments of this what if, as we will now turn to see Naruto, who by this point was actually the newest Hokage, as in this timeline he will be the 6th. But don't worry, he wouldn't be having the same position as he was like in the main timeline, to where he was either like bored and overworked. This one, Naruto would actually be much more in control. He would be able to have his own hours, and not only that, but literally, who would be dumb enough to try to attack or do anything to the Hidden Leaf Village when they have the strongest shinobi? And also Naruto realized in this timeline that he actually has shadow clones that are able to do all the work for him. But needless to say, nonetheless, we will turn to see Naruto, as currently right now he'll be looming over the entirety of the village, as he'll be looking on with a stoic yet calm look, that of a true leader. As the experiences of his old life in this one were able to come together to shape how he is now. As now with this being said, this will be the final thing we will see from this what if, as this will be the end to what if Naruto was Hugram's reincarnation. Thank y'all so much for tuning into this What If. I really hope y'all do enjoy. I apologize for it taking so long to get out, but here it is now. But still, nonetheless, y'all, it's currently right now like about to be 3 o'clock in the morning. So with that being said, it's your host Seiji Samurai, and he's signing off. Peace and have a lovely day.
Colors, switch the color, 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 switch it, switch the